integument of the medial side of the leg. Beneath the fascia lata, at the lower border of the adductor longus, it joins to form a plexiform network (subsartorial plexus) with branches of the saphenous and obturator nerves. When the communicating branch from the obturator nerve is large and continued to the integument of the leg, the posterior branch of the medial cutaneous is small and terminates in the plexus, occasionally giving off a few cutaneous filaments. The medial cutaneous nerve, before dividing, gives off a few filaments, which pierce the fascia lata to supply the integument of the medial side of the thigh, accompanying the long saphenous vein. One of these filaments passes through the saphenous opening. A second becomes subcutaneous about the middle of the thigh. A third pierces the fascia at its lower third. Muscular branches (rami muscularis). The nerve to the pectineus arises immediately below the inguinal ligament, and passes behind the femoral sheath to enter the anterior surface of the muscle. It is often duplicated. The nerve to the sartorius arises in common with the intermediate cutaneous. The posterior division of the femoral nerve gives off the saphenous nerve and muscular and articular branches. The saphenous nerve (nervus saphenous, long or internal saphenous nerve) is the largest cutaneous branch of the femoral nerve. It approaches the femoral artery where this vessel passes beneath the sartorius and lies in front of it, behind the aponeurotic covering of the adductor canal, as far as the opening in the lower part of the adductor magnus. Here it quits the artery, and emerges from behind the lower edge of the aponeurotic covering of the canal. It descends vertically along the medial side of the knee behind the sartorius, pierces the fascia lata between the tendons of the sartorius and gracilis, and becomes subcutaneous. The nerve then passes along the tibial side of the leg, accompanied by the great saphenous vein, descends behind the medial border of the tibia, and, at the lower third of the leg, divides into two branches. One continues its course along the margin of the tibia and ends at the ankle. The other passes in front of the ankle, and is distributed to the skin on the medial side of the foot as far as the ball of the great toe, communicating with the medial branch of the superficial peroneal nerve. Branches. The saphenous nerve, about the middle of the thigh, gives off a branch which joins the subsartorial plexus. At the medial side of the knee it gives off a large infrapatellar branch, which pierces the sartorius and fascia lata, and is distributed to the skin in front of the patella. This nerve communicates above the knee with the anterior cutaneous branches of the femoral nerve below the knee, with other branches of the saphenous, and, on the lateral side of the joint, with branches of the lateral femoral cutaneous nerve, forming a plexiform network, the plexus patellae. The infrapatellar branch is occasionally small, and ends by joining the anterior cutaneous branches of the femoral, which supply its place in front of the knee. Below the knee, the branches of the saphenous nerve are distributed to the skin of the front and medial side of the leg, communicating with the cutaneous branches of the femoral, or with filaments from the obturator nerve. The muscular branches supply the fore parts of the quadriceps femoris. The branch to the rectus femoris enters the upper part of the deep surface of the muscle and supplies a filament to the hip joint. The branch to the vastus lateralis, of large size, accompanies the descending branch of the lateral femoral circumflex artery to the lower part of the muscle. It gives off an articular filament to the knee joint. The branch to the vastus medialis descends lateral to the femoral vessels in company with the saphenous nerve. It enters the muscle about its middle, and gives off a filament, which can usually be traced downward on the surface of the muscle to the knee joint. The branches to the vastus intermedius 2 or 3 in number, enter the anterior surface of the muscle about the middle of the thigh. A filament from one of these descends through the muscle to the articularis genu and the knee joint. The articular branch to the hip joint is derived from the nerve to the rectus femoris. The articular branches to the knee joint are 3 in number. 1. A long, slender filament is derived from the nerve to the vastus lateralis. It penetrates the capsule of the joint on its anterior aspect. Another, derived from the nerve to the vastus medialis, can usually be traced downward on the surface of this muscle to near the joint. It then penetrates the muscular fibers, and accompanies the articular branch of the highest genicular artery, pierces the medial side of the articular capsule, and supplies the synovial membrane. The third branch is derived from the nerve to the vastus intermedius. Footnote: Note 135. In most cases the fourth lumbar is the nervus precalis, but this arrangement is frequently departed from. The third is occasionally the lowest nerve which enters the lumbar plexus, giving at the same time some fibers to the sacral plexus, and thus forming the nervus precalis. Or both the third and fourth may be furcal nerves. When this occurs, the plexus is termed high or prefixed. More frequently the fifth nerve is divided between the lumbar and sacral plexuses, and constitutes the nervus precalis, and when this takes place the plexus is distinguished as a low or postfixed plexus. These variations necessarily produce corresponding modifications in the sacral plexus. End of section 40.